This is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the mums, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
I've been here. This is the Black Country Blokes chewing the fat about everything is mental health, disability, and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner in crime, as always, Lee Kaplan. Now we're joined by Michael and Mitch today. Michael has written a one-man play, Trapped, as well as writing some other plays about mental health. So it's right up our alley. But he's going to tell you all about it, the inspiration, and a bit of the story. But as always, we're going to go into our gratitude list. And I, as always, have got a lot to be grateful for. I've just come back from a remarkable holiday with me, my wife, and my daughter. Brilliant. No technology, just quality family time. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm also grateful while I was away. My two boxers, Osman Mohammed and William Wilson, went to Arangay Cup. William come back with a silver medal and Osman come back with a gold medal. Grateful that Osman and William both sent me the fights, as always, to keep me in the loop, even though I wasn't there. And I'm grateful for my dad, Josh and Simon, who headed it up and did the coaching. And, yeah, grateful for my team. What are you grateful for, bro?
Similar along your lines, Kev. I was very lucky to go to the Gervais weekend at Centre Parks this weekend. But what I'm really grateful, not only the families that met us there and you know, talking to people who had similar experience to myself and my daughter, but also I got to spend a lot of time with my son because my eldest daughter took her friend with her, so she was off doing that, which meant left me and my son to go swimming and do this. And, you know, we had an absolutely crazy, fantastic weekend. Yeah, and I'm just grateful I got to spend that time.
Michael, what are you grateful for?
Oh, no, I didn't expect that one. I've been grateful for life at the moment. There's lots going on, and it's just exciting to do various different things and just keep on top of everything if I can, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Mitch, what are you grateful for, bro?
I am grateful for the people I have in my life that are extremely supportive of me and what I want to do. And I'm grateful that I'm having the opportunity to do the things that I love doing. And being able to share those with the people I care about.
It's nice, isn't it? How we've all mentioned like family and opportunities and freedoms, because when you take away any of those things, freedoms, family, ain't life so much tougher? You know what I mean? We have got to remind ourselves, and it's something I've been on this journey. Let's say we've been doing this for 4 years now, and reminding myself. Some days, like, you'll go, I was having a great day, and then this plonker said this, and it ruined my day. I go, no, that was a very small fragment of a wonderful day. So don't focus on the idiot, focus on all the wondrous things around it. And that's been something I've been learning more and more as the years are going on. And something we've worked on together, isn't it, really? And focusing on the positive and less on the bad. Yes, the bad is going to happen, and sometimes it is very undeniably bad. But having people you can care about and lean on and get through it makes that a bit easier. And I bet that's a bit like with your writing. I mean, you've read several plays, haven't you?
Yeah, so this Trapped is the fourth play that I've written. And I've also written 4 short novels, trying to write number 5, but I never seem to get any time for that. But again, I think for me, I find that is... I can escape into another world, as it were, when I'm writing. And often the people in my stories are having a hell of a lot more of a bad time than I ever am. And so it brings back my life into perspective when I'm looking at those things that I'm writing about.
You said about some of your stuff because one suicide, one mild domestic abuse, mental health and cancer.
Yeah.
And they've been subjects we've touched on ourselves through here and they're very under-talked about. I mean, cancer, everyone experiences cancer. I think it's now 1 in 2 of us. But even though it can also be in our lives, doesn't mean they're easy to talk about.
No.
Male domestic abuse, very, very underrated, talked about. And suicide, we are getting better at it, but it's still that stigma around mental health, domestic abuse, and suicide are killing people.
Yeah, very much. The suicide play, which was last year's festival play, was actually a black comedy. And the whole joke, as it were, if you can call it a joke, was there were 4 people who all chose the same day at the same time on the same window ledge to commit their solo act of suicide. And now they had to contend with 3 other people on their window ledge. And it was a story of hope, because in the end, spoiler alert, nobody jumps, because they become the solution to each other's problems and they help each other off the window ledge. And they leave a note to say that, look, if you get yourself to this point, before you jump, call us.
I like that, because it also shows that the talking helps.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's
does.
that is one of the key things that, you know, I've found in my life. I've had some really dark times, but having people I can reach out to and talk to has made the difference and has got me through it. Now, that's not always been easy, because sometimes we just want to keep it to ourselves, but we have to actually just acknowledge that we can't do it on our own. And that's very much with the play of Trapped, the end of it, without seeing again too much of the spoiler alerting, is that Thomas has to realise he can't do it on his own. He can't go back to whatever normality is on his own. He needs help. And he, or does he? But he does, obviously. But he comes to that solution in the end. But it's a rocky road to get there.
There's a lovely saying. I don't know if you've ever seen The Boy, the Mole, the Horse, the Fox, the book. But the BBC made it into a movie. I recommend anyone sees it. I say this all the time. And it's such a remarkable saying. I based a lot of my thing on it. It says, what's the hardest thing you've ever asked? He goes, help. He goes, asking for help is not giving up. It's refusing to give up. I thought how beautiful that is, because when we feel, well, I don't want to give up, I don't ask for help. But at that point that I've asked for help, I've realised I don't want to give up. And that little bit of help can pull me over the line. Yeah. And I love that. And no matter what we're going through, be it abuse or loneliness or cancer, we all need help. Even when we're winning, we need help, because how am I going to keep on winning? You know what I mean? How am I going to keep my focus on it? We've got one of our boxers, Osman Mohammed, one of the best boxers in the country. He still needs help now. And that's how it is.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of people think that it's weak to ask for help, but actually it's a sign of great strength and a great, quality of character to actually say, no, I can't do this on my own. I need help. And that is actually, again, part of what the message through Trapped is, that it's not a weak, it's a strength. If you can actually acknowledge that you need help, go for it, because that's what it's there for.
And the male bravado has killed so many men.
Yeah.
Because we won't ask for it, we won't admit we're struggling. We can't ask for help when we're behind on our payments, or that we're drowning ourselves in the poison that's making us worse. So more people can be talking about it and sympathising and saying, I wasn't exactly where you were, but I was somewhere similar. And at that point, I realised I did need help, and I think you do now. Having these conversations. And I mean, without giving away too much, Mitch, about Trapped. Tell us something about your character. What's his name?
Thomas Rogers.
And tell us a little bit about Thomas. And
so Thomas, he's gone through a rather traumatic time. Can't say what, but he's gone through something that has severely affected him, and he's having to deal with the repercussions, I suppose you could say, of that, and the feeling of being responsible for that thing. And it's that feeling responsible for it that is preventing him from getting the help he needs, from getting out there and doing what he needs to do to help himself, because he's holding himself responsible for something that was not necessarily his fault in the first place. And I think most people can relate to something like that. It doesn't have to be anything as traumatic, but we can all relate to feeling responsible for something, and we won't forgive ourselves and we won't do anything to help ourselves with it, almost because we feel like we deserve the punishment that we are receiving by reliving it over and over again. And I think that is something that is the main focus of what Thomas is having to go through and overcome in the show.
You're in rehearsals now, aren't you?
Yes.
I'll just read out the dates of actual show. So it's Thursday, the 20th of July, Friday, 21st, and Saturday, the 22nd of July, all at 7 p.m. And it's £10 a ticket, and you can get them from Blue Orange Theatre, which is the website scrolling across the bottom. But obviously, you're rehearsing now, and no doubt a play like that is very emotional. How does that stay with you? Or, I know there's some actors out there, method actors, and they stay in that character, and it really kind of affects their life. Are you the same, or is it?
No, for the most part, with me, I can come in and I can do it, and I can leave it there. This was just posing a challenge for me because I'm very fortunate that I have not really had to deal with any mental health issues. I've obviously gone through the basic things that most people have go through. I have, I'd say, mild social anxiety. Interacting with new people isn't exactly my strong suit. I tend to shrink into myself unless I am forced to have to talk to those people. Yeah. The difference is I'm on camera, so I get to put on a show. But it's challenging because I'm having to tap into something that I only know about through research, and I do have people in my life that go through stuff like that. So my partner, she has things she deals with, and without it sounding grim, that really helps me in one regard because I can use that, I can pull from that to get the emotion across. But while it's in rehearsal, because it's also like a workshopping process, I don't feel fully in that emotional state at that point. For me, the way my process works, that comes, for example, once I'm completely off book and I can focus purely on just getting that emotion down.
You're learning the character, aren't you?
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, it is difficult to do because it's not a far from me character, but it is far enough that it's slightly out of my comfort zone.
It has been interesting doing the rehearsals because there's been times, I mean, I wrote it, I've read it through, and I've read it through myself, and I've seen it time and time again. And sometimes, as we've been developing it, Thomas, without saying not Mitch, but Thomas does something, and I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm thinking, but I know that's coming. So how on earth is that going to make the audience feel? And I think that's, again, part of the art of a play like this is to actually make people go, oh, yeah, that's what he's feeling. And Mitch he probably won't praise himself, but he's doing really well in developing that already. And as you say, he's not off book yet for all of it. And I think once that comes, it's going to be even more powerful. We're not talking about making people cry and burst into tears and stop, but what we're trying to do is raise awareness of the struggle that this guy, Thomas Rogers, has in his life. And he visits various scenes from his life. And sometimes we see people who seem to care, but don't really show it. And then others who really just don't care and don't get it and don't understand the problems that he has. But that's real to life,
Is there almost like a slight uncomfortableness when you hear it? Because I think that's a good thing.
As such. I mean, I should say it's a one-man play, but there are other voices that we hear. So without giving away too much, again, Thomas replays certain scenes in his life. He can see the people he's interacting with. We can hear them, but we can't see them. He also has an inner dialogue with his mother, so he can hear Mummy, even though she's not there anymore, through the picture frame that he has with Mummy. And again, he can hear her, and he can effectively interact with her. We can't hear or see her. But again, it just gives us a sort of a window into sometimes what the brain can do for us. in a good way, but also sometimes in a bad way, and that was the deliberate part behind it. So it's a strange one-way man show, because normally a one-man show you just hear one voice the whole way through.
Yeah.
Here there are other voices, friends of mine who have already recorded their part, and they're played through the speakers. So it's clever in that way. It's clever modestly.
I found with this, it's more I put a pressure on myself about it, and I've expressed this to my partner and I think maybe my mom, but I've expressed it to people that I worry about not doing it justice, because the people who actually go through this, I worry if they're gonna see me do this and be like, that's not accurate, that's not at all what it's like. So I obviously do my research about it, and my partner made a very good point, which is helping me keep the pressure off a little bit, is that I am doing an inner monologue of someone going through this outwards, something that people wouldn't normally say. I'm having to say out loud because I'm on stage. They need something to see.
You can't sit in silence, can you?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Be a bit of a boring play.
Just sat there, just
45 minutes. Thanks very much. Good luck your money.
So it's the whole, I've got to remember that I'm taking something inner and putting it outer. And with stage, especially if, for example, you don't have microphones, everything has to be bigger so people can see it and interact with it. So even though I have these worries of like, am I going to portray it as too out there? It's like, well, it needs to be, because it needs to make the impact. People need to be able to hear me and understand what's going on in the show, which is something I didn't expect I'd end up having go through my head. But yeah.
And what has been your inspiration for writing these things, Michael?
A lot of it comes from, I mean, the first play, A Matter of Law, which was the play about male domestic abuse, that there was 3 of us who at the time wanted to form the theatre company and do some theatre. We were doing some rather shoddy acting classes at the time, which we spent more time laughing at the way that the classes were than actually learning. And we said, well, we want to do some theatre. And I'd just written a book called Escape from Marriage by Michael Harris on Amazon. Sorry, not plugging it really. Shameless plug. And that book was about male domestic abuse. And I said, well, look, why don't we use that as our subject? I've never written a play before, but I'll go away and we'll meet in a couple of weeks' time. And, I'll see what I've got and we can go from there. And literally just over a week later, we met at my flat in Birmingham, and the first draft of, at the time, we didn't even have a name for the play, came out, and it was the idea of a courtroom. Now, where that idea came from, no idea, but it came and it all crystallized. I could see it. We had to chop loads of it out because it was only allowed to be less than an hour at the time. We've since done a new version, which is a 2-act play where the first act is the prosecution. They then have an interval where they court jury, because the audience become the jury, and they're told you mustn't discuss this with anyone other than those in the court case. It was all very cheesy, but it worked. They went out and then they came back, saw the case of the defense, then they voted. So that was inspired by the book. The cancer play, I met a few people at the time who were going through that experience, and so that inspiration just came. And again, the idea of that one was there were 2 ladies who met on a chemotherapy ward, and they just connected. They shouldn't have done. One was an older upper class, shops at Waitrose. Husband's a computer programmer. Nothing in common with the younger girl, who was a young black mum, 2 small kids, on a final dose of chemotherapy. If this fails, it's it. She's finished. And sadly, one of them doesn't make it. Because I don't believe in all happy endings. Unfortunately, life is not that way. And again, it was a very powerful play, delivered that. And then the suicide one, again, it was another subject that I wanted to tackle. And it just felt right. And that was the only thing I wrote during the lockdown period. We did do some other stuff, but that was the only new play we wrote. So Yeah, where does it come from? I don't know. I think it just comes into my head. I'm working on a possible play at the moment about a Ukrainian family who moved to the UK and move into I think Sutton Coldfield, and the frictions. And it's a bit sort of Romeo and Juliet-esque, but in a modern day concept, in terms of they've got a 17-year-old daughter from Romania and they've got a 17-year-old son from the UK. He, the father of the white family, doesn't think that these foreigners should be allowed in the country. The Ukrainian guy is proud because he lost his garage in Ukraine. He's come over here, he's working in a garage, but he doesn't really want to be mixing with the white people. And in the end, these two families have to work together because their daughter and son run off to London to go and watch Phantom of the Opera, as you do, or as I do. Spoiler alert, but there we go. And in the end, they do actually come together and realize that although they're from different places and different races, they're actually not that different when it comes down to it. So again, that's a new idea of working on it. Where it comes stage, don't know, but it's just there.
That's what the world's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It don't really matter how we look, what we pray, if we don't pray. We've got more in common than we don't have in common.
Yeah.
And it's about what you focus your energy on. Positive and love, or hate and division. And I think that's just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful when people can be writing these things, because some people find inspiration by a song, some people find inspiration by a portrait or a photograph, some people see it as a movie or a play. But I think more mediums we have of showing beauty and hard to talk about subjects, the better it is. Finding your medicine, as we've said all along, finding your medicine that makes you better.
Yeah.
And as long as the beauty's out there, all we've now got to point people in how to go and find it. Yeah. And if they can come to your show, but if they can't, is there any of them been recorded or anything on YouTube?
Funny enough, A Matter of Law and For Those We Leave Behind, during the lockdown, we had people in their own houses, COVID safe, record on Zoom. And then what I did was very bad editing of it. So those are available on YouTube. I've got a feeling one of them they've taken down because of copyright, because we used a lot of really good music and some...
They do that to us, don't they?
Yeah, some
Damn
people...
YouTube.
It's really annoying. But as far as I know, For Those We Leave Behind, so if you look for Michael Harris on YouTube, you should find it. And For Those We Leave Behind, that one is the two ladies and cancer. And again, we filmed all of that in their own safety. I think that one might be the one that's taken down, so it's A Matter of Law. But anyway, the hope is at one stage we will do them again. Trapped, but obviously being just the two of us involved, because I'm, as well as director and writer, I also do the technician on the day, so we keep it all in house. We would like to maybe in the future take it on tour to other venues. So if there are people listening in who have a theatre or a location where they think a play like this would be helpful, even in a mental health training situation, we would be delighted to speak to them. They can get in touch through the theatre or through the website for twogensme.co.uk. We'd be delighted to help and get involved.
Has mental health always been a passionate subject to yourself? Have you had your own struggles?
I think I was in a difficult relationship. I wouldn't say my wife was abusive in the physical sense, although she did break a coat hanger on the bed once in front of me, but that's another story. But she was very cohesive, very controlling. And it was interesting when we were writing A Matter of Law, it was not long after they brought in the new law, which was the coercive and controlling behaviour. So previously, abuse was physical, and there was no implication of any mental ability abuse. And we were saying earlier about how that actually can be sometimes worse. Things like, is that the best you can do? Or, what time do you call this? You're late. Where and all those sort of abuses. So for me, my writing comes out of some of the experiences I've had in my life and some of the experiences I've seen other people having in their life, the names are changed to protect their identity and all that sort of thing, and come out from there. And I think there's a certain getting help by talking about those things and by writing about those things. I'm a strong believer in don't keep it to yourself, share it. I was always taught at school, problem shared is a problem halved, or whatever they say. I don't think it always necessarily works, but actually when you can talk about something, it doesn't become quite that big anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's who you talk to. I think that's what's missing out of that quote.
Yeah.
Yourself, Mitch, obviously acting. So how did you start in that? And what? It's not conventional for people around here to go into acting, is it?
No,
it's not on the job list, is it?
Yeah, I think the last person I know of that comes from roughly around here was, I believe her name was Anya from Wolverhampton. She plays Yennefer on the Witcher series. She's from Wolverhampton.
Oh, really?
I think that's the only other person I've ever heard of that comes from around
the only
here.
Lenny Henry.
Yeah.
Lenny Henry. Yes.
Yeah.
Lenny Henry. I met him at college. It was amazing. But yeah. So what was the question?
Yeah. So how did
I get into it? When I was in school, not so much primary school. I didn't really enjoy it much in primary school. Like when we did it, there was always that one kid that was put as the front and center of everything. I remember playing a hand in Beauty and the Beast, and I jump out going 11, and I remember thinking I was literally a giant hand. Like that was what was in my head. But it was only in secondary school that I started to enjoy it. So we do performances for. There were like variety shows that we put on that all of us that had made performances would put them on. And all the ones I did were awful. They were absolutely awful. They were not good. I think there was like one that I did that was probably passable. And it started from there. And then since there, it's just been consistent ever since. The workload has not been consistent, but the desire to want to do it has always been consistent. It's always been there. I've always wanted to do it. I've gone through, the various stages of not going as head on into it as I probably should in order to get anywhere. I've gone through those different stages, which is why I'm now trying to do things on the regular and end up doing 2 performances, which makes some of my Mondays very busy and very exhausting. But at least I'm doing something that I love doing. And it's just come from that. I've never looked back. I've never considered doing anything else. And I honestly think if it wasn't for the support of the people around me, especially my mom, because that's not saying that anyone else listening in, that's not saying that your support is not as important, but mom has been supportive of me since I decided to pursue it. The only thing she ever asked of me was be realistic in regards to have a job so that you can cover your expenses and still live, as opposed to jumping into it and then having no money and being stuck basically. But definitely without my mom's support, there is a good chance I probably would have considered packing it in at some point.
That's really important what your mom said there, because it's very much, it's great to have those dreams and those goals to be able to achieve, but you've got to be pragmatic about it as well. I mean, and you've got to go, well, actually, this is what I want to do, but I have to do these things that are in front of me to get to that point.
Yeah. Like there are people that can literally just cut everything off, jump into it, and somehow manage to find their footing. But that is a big risk. That
it's few and far between as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a case of, like you said, just building up, going step by step. Like I'm a believer in the law of attraction, but my belief is that it's 50-50. You can put it out there of what you want and what you need. The universe, I suppose you could say, will present you with an opportunity. Mm-hmm. You need to be of sound enough mind to know that is the opportunity, and whether to take it or walk away, kind of thing. Like an example, I am a huge fan of Hugh Jackman, almost weirdly so. And I've always wanted to meet him or just see him. And then years later, he announces a tour that he's doing around the UK and around everywhere, basically. and I took the opportunity because it just happened to coincide with 2 paychecks, so I was able to afford VIP, and I ended up being right at the front where he was and getting to see him and briefly technically interact with him with the brushing of the hands. So that to me is like an example of, it may take a while, but it will come around if you work towards it as well.
I think that's in life. What I've found is there's things you plan for and you rehearse for, like the play. You put all your focus into it, your energy, and you kind of know the result at the end of it. If you put that work in and that time and that energy, you know that should be a good play. Now, there is variables along the way, but you put as much as you can into it to make it happen. But then there's also the times in life that something may go wrong or right, and that 30 seconds where it's gone wrong or right has altered the shape of your day. And you happen to be in a lift and bump into a person and get talking, and then all of a sudden your day's changed because you're talking to a director or you're talking to this or you're talking to that. And it's those luck moments, I think, that really can propel you on. But you still need to have the other moments of, actually, I've worked towards this, and when I get to end, that goal's fantastic and I've achieved it.
There's an extra sense of achievement if you've worked for it and it's happened, even if you have had luck help you along the way.
And
as
everyone
opposed
needs
to
that.
just being given it, because I feel like you appreciate it, but you can't appreciate it as much as you could have if you didn't have it and worked your ass off to get to it, kind of thing. But yeah,
looks great when it's on your side.
yes.
Well, but if you look at it, it is always on your side, because as I say, you could have had you could have gone into your bathroom and kicked the edge of the sink and hurt your toe, but it's made you a minute late for work. But you've turned up and you've managed to walk in a minute late, and something's happened within that minute that's changed your life. Whereas if you hadn't to stump your toe, you'd have missed that person and not got that opportunity or something like that. So it's always how you kind of view
I think as well, a lot of it comes down to whether you're a glass half empty or a glass half full. I've always been someone who, tries to be someone whose glass is not just half full, but usually overflowing. So, my leg's fallen off. Well, I only need to buy one pair of shoes now, and I can make them both last. Or, it's trying to look for the bright side in the dark tunnel, and it's not always easy.
No, but it's always there.
Yeah,
and that's what
if you look for it. And again, I think that was the essence of for those really for to Jump last year, was that even in the darkest time, when it doesn't appear there's any light, there is always light if you look for it, and there is always a solution if you look for it. And that might be having to admit you can't find that yourself, but there is always a way out. And that isn't jumping off the cliff or taking tablets or whatever. It's acknowledging that you need that support and getting it. And I think that was the whole point of to Jump, was that on their own, their life wasn't worth living. But when they worked together as a core of 4, they could then start to resolve the issues. And some of those issues that they had weren't just going to go away overnight. There was one guy who was potentially HIV positive, and he could be, or he could not be. He didn't know. And the fact is, they couldn't say, well, we'll just make it so you're not. But what they were saying was, if you are, well, then I've always been told I'm a good nursemaid. I'll look after you. Oh, and I can run your company for you. Oh, well, you come and live with me until we find you somewhere to live. So they were giving solutions to his issues, even when in that respect, they weren't necessarily even there. And so I think that's the thing. It's finding people you can lean on, and being willing to do that. And that's the difficult bit sometimes.
Having people on the outside looking in at your problem instead of being in your problem.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a friend who's going through a really dark time at the moment, and someone reached out to me. They said, "Have you heard from this person?" And I'm like, "No, haven't heard from them. Haven't spoken to them for ages." And the fact is that actually what that person needs is for us to get alongside them and help them. But actually for us to approach that person would push them further away. So that person needs to actually choose to reach out to his friends who have reached out to him. But if everybody starts reaching out, you push them away. So it has to come down to you. If you're in that dark tunnel, it's horrible. You know, I've been in the bottom of pits more times than I can remember. I'm 50. I know I look only 35, but you know, I'm 50 years of old. I've had lots of challenging times through my life, some my fault, some not my fault, but I've had to take the decision to say, I can't cope, I need help. And if I don't do that, you can offer it as much as you like, but until I say, yeah, I need it, we're not going to get anywhere. And so, you know,
it's a more intense version of everyone coming up to you being like, are you okay, are you okay, are you okay? And you just get absolutely annoyed and hated towards everyone because you're not okay, but you don't want to talk about it right
and
now.
it just becomes an automatic answer then, does it? I'm fine.
We've all said it takes courage to ask for help. It takes just as much courage to accept help.
Definitely.
And that's the thing, isn't it? And when someone does ask for it, we say, I think it's on the intro here, sometimes like we're knocking on the door saying, help me, help me, help me. And if no one answers, eventually you stop asking. So if someone has got the courage to ask for help, don't just brush it under the carpet, take it very seriously and see what you can do to get them better.
And it's not, and the thing, I think when people do ask for help, don't think you've got to have the answer.
No.
Sometimes just the listening is just as important, or the, well, actually, you know, I appreciate you telling me, but I think you need this help by these professionals, or this help by these.
I'll help you phone the GP, or I'll sit with you when you're phoning them, or I'll help you look for a number.
I think a good question to pose. I found out about it based on like a relationship, but it could apply to friends or anyone. If they're talking to you, ask them, do you need advice or do you need to vent? Because they're two very different things. Someone can want you, like you said, to listen, or they can want you to chime in and try and offer something up. And I think it's important to clarify as soon as possible what it is they want out of you, so that way you can better help them with it. Because some people just need you to be there as a shoulder to cry on, even if you say nothing, just having someone there around you. And it stems obviously from what you said, the finding your medicine, finding the light in that dark tunnel. And not everyone's is going to be a particular person or anything like that. It could be anything, but like for me, mine's either my partner or my best friend Mike. If I have had the worst day, or should anything, God forbid, worse happen to me that I need to talk to someone about, I know I can go to either of them, because Mike has this innate ability to make me laugh no matter how I am feeling. And I think that's a rare property that anyone has, to be honest. And then with my partner, something as simple as just coming back, cuddling. I'm fine, even if I don't talk. It's just that is helping me get into a better headspace just by doing these little things. And obviously, yes, it is much more difficult if you're going through depression or suicidal thoughts, stuff like that. But just simple things, find the little things that make you happy in life and try and focus on that just a little bit. And because I think people have the misconception that if you're laughing when you're sad, you're no longer feeling sad. It's like, no, you're just choosing to take a break from feeling like that all the time. Doesn't mean you are no longer feeling it. You are just choosing to take that break. And that is a break I choose to take whenever I'm going through something. It's like, I'm not going to feel guilty for laughing because I'm taking a break from feeling that bad. And I think if you can, you should try and do that as much as possible, because maybe that little regular interval of laughing will help you not fall into that dark place even deeper. But then again, I have been very fortunate that I haven't gone through any of this, so I could just be talking out my butt right now. But that is my thought process on it.
I think very much, you're touching the point is there, but also there's things like Samaritans, for argument's sake. A lot of people think you can only sign Samaritans if you're suicidal. And that's not the case. It can be anything. It can be you just had a really bad day at work and you're really struggling with trying to compute everything. They are there for everything. And I think that's
Chris on, didn't we, from the Samaritans?
And they said, so but it says people feel like, I've got a phone, I'm going to hang myself. Because I can't remember the exact number so well. So everybody went, it's a third, a tenth, I can't remember, of the phone calls, because some people are just going, I'm having a wobble. I'm feeling very sad, but I have no one else to talk to. And they're there for that. They're then. I thought Samaritans, Papyrus, Calm were just for a phone call. You can email them, you can text them. So I want to talk to someone, Lee, but I'm not a talker. Or Kev, get in touch with them and email them, or text them. Or if you're having abuse, you can text. You can. We're living in the world of so much free information. If you are struggling, look on something and see these wonderful organisations that are out there and give them a try.
And the benefit again of those is that they are trained to do what they're doing. The danger is we try and help and we think we're helping, but actually we don't know what we're doing. So unless you're trained, it's actually almost better to say, look, thank you for telling me. I believe you. I'm going to stand with you, but we need to get you professional support and help. Let's call, or let's go to the doctor. Let's go to your GP or go to wherever to get that help. Don't try and do it yourself if you're not trained, because you could actually make things worse. But be willing to stand with that person and say, thank you for taking me into your confidence. I'm really chuffed that you felt you could do that. I don't have the answers for you, but I will help you and I'll stand with you until you do get those answers. And that I think is important as well.
Another hotline I should mention, our brothers are Tough Enough to Care. They do a phone call and a text message, and they're only around this area. Excellent. But guys, thank you ever so much for coming on. Once again, when are those dates, Mr. Cadman?
Thursday the 20th, Friday the 21st, and Saturday the 22nd. Blue Orange Theatre, just outside the outskirts of Birmingham Central, near Jewellery Quarter if we want to be posh, or Hockley if you just want to be normal. And tickets are just £10, so cheap as chips.
And that's July.
July the 20th, July the 21st and the 2nd. 7 p.m. start.
And before you go, I'm going to ask you both. We'll start with you, Michael. Any quotes or sayings that have either helped you get through life or just stick out in your mind?
I think, make every day, treat every day as if it's your last, and one day you'll be right, but make that day the best that you can do. So it's almost like mixing two together there. So,
and Mitch?
There's probably loads that I have come across, and I probably can't remember a single one right now. But the one that immediately pops to my head is from Balboa. The speech he gives, nothing hits as hard as life, and it will keep knocking you down, and it will keep you there if you let it. Don't say you're not where you are because of him or her or anybody else. You're better than that.
It's a good one for a boxing club, isn't it?
It is, But I've just found that's just a good one to keep in your head anyway. It's like, if you accept that it's going to happen, you can combat it a little better. And like I said before we started, from 500 Days of Summer, the world's a playground, and sometimes we forget it. So just keep treating life like a playground.
Well, guys, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
And you guys, thanks for listening. So until we see each other next time, I want you all to take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.